to say and to understand that the Puerto Rican community is part of the Democratic base. And that is critical because I think what Johanna has been saying and what has been expressed by people here is that the Hispanic community does not feel, the Hispanic leadership does not feel that they are part of the Democratic base.
Yes.
And it is because the Democratic Party has continued to fail to create a space for the Hispanic community to be a part of the Democratic Party. And a part of the Democratic Party doesn't mean they're just voters. It means they're the staff, it means they're the candidates, it means they're the elected officials, it means they're the volunteers,
And
it
the
means
vendors,
the
and the
vendors,
contractors.
it means everything. I am the only Hispanic chair in the entire state. And I don't say that with pride. Johanna is one of 2 Democratic legislators in the state of Florida. There's over 20 Republicans. We've talked about it. And so, and by the way, when she talks about Trump, 1 out of every 4 DeSantis voters voted for this woman. And she constantly, and we constantly have to prove ourselves, not to the people outside, but to the people within our own party. And it is unbecoming of our party that the Republicans are winning the majority of the Cuban vote, of the Venezuelan vote, of the Colombian vote, when their message is that they want to deport their grandmothers, right? It's not that they have a message. It's that we have failed to be in the community enough where we can easily tell them, by the way, listen to them. They want to deport your mom, your grandma, your family. They're still voting for them. And they're voting for them because we have created the space for them to come in and sell whatever message they want to sell. And so again, I am excited that you're here because I think it shows that you care for this community and that you'll do a great job of listening to our concerns and most importantly, implementing them as we move forward in rebuilding the Democratic Party. And I'll say that if you are here, it's because you have to put in work also to be part of rebuilding that Democratic Party because it goes both ways. So thank you for being here and we appreciate it.
Let me just say, before we open it up for questions, that the Latino community should not stand with the Democratic Party if the Democratic Party is not standing with the Latino. I want to be very clear about that. And that means that we have to earn the trust of the Latino. Democrats have to rebuild trust. And I would argue one of the reasons that we've lost ground and lost trust with the Latino community is because we're not part of it. We're not present. The only time you hear from Democrats more often than not is a few months before an election when they're asking for something, which of course is the vote, right? And then of course, you never see them again for 2 more years. And then Democrats come back asking for the vote. You know, we have to break out of this transactional relationship that we have, the Democratic Party, with not just the Latino community, but Black, Brown, and other communities throughout this country who are fighting so hard right now just to make it and feeling like the Democratic Party says one thing, our candidates, and then does another when they get into office. Right. So part of it, I believe, is we have to get out of, you know, and I'm an organizer, I come out of the union movement as well. My mom, just to give you a little bit of my background, was 15 years old when she had me, and she raised 4 kids by the time she was 20 by herself. And I share this story with you because, you know, I've often thought a lot about why we do this work, why all of us do this work. It's very personal for everyone in this room, right? Politics, I worked for a guy named Paul Wellstrom, who was a US Senator, and Paul used to say that politics is about the improvement of people's lives. That's really, at the end of the day, what it is about. But when you have people who, I always say people should not separate the lives they lead from the words they speak. And you have politicians and party leaders who show up all the time and say, you know, we're gonna stand up and fight for you. And then they get into office and they don't, right? And so part of it is, it's twofold. One, we have to be present in community, organizing, communicating, in solidarity, present in community all the time, not just during an election year. The first conversation we have with anyone
regardless of the community they're from, should not be asking them to do something for our party. It should be listening to their dreams, their hopes, their aspirations about their future. And then eventually we build a relationship around shared values. The very last conversation the Democratic Party should have with anyone, not just in the Latino community, but all communities, is asking them to do something for us. That's one. Two, we have to recognize that we, specific to the Latino community, I have seen this mistake made more often than not, that we treat the very diverse Latino community as a monolith. I mean, look, I'm in Minnesota, right? We have a sizable Latino community there, but it's very diverse, just like the Latino community everywhere. This is not the first time since I've been chair, I visited with Latino voters. I was in Houston, Texas, visiting with Latino voters. I was in Los Angeles with Hilda Solis and Dolores Huerta, visiting with Latino voters. And the point is everywhere you go in this country, there's differences, geographic differences, and there's also differences within the Latino community. But when the party treats the Latino community as a monolith, it's already showing deep disrespect, right? Deep disrespect. And so that's why we have to do a better job of listening to vendors and consultants and people who are doing this work in the community who know better than I do, right? How to communicate more effectively, how to reach voters in a way that's authentic and genuine with messengers that are authentic and genuine. But we have to start from the premise that not all communities are the same, but all communities have the same dreams. And you know, part of that is something I've reflected a lot about too here, and then I want to open up for questions, because we have to realize that one of the things that connects all parts of our working class coalition, as someone who comes from the union movement, who knows that labor has brought more people from poverty into the middle class, that one of the things that makes this country unique and brought so many of our ancestors here, unless you're Native, is the idea that it doesn't matter who your family is, where you were born. Even a poor kid like me could rise up and make something of himself, right? It's the idea of the American dream, that if you work hard, you should be able to climb the economic ladder. But as Democrats, we know there are systemic and structural barriers that are in the way, and we're trying to remove them. We're trying to remove those barriers so no matter who you are, you have the same opportunity to get ahead in life. That's what we're fighting for. And that's what connects, that's the through line that connects all of us in this country right now. And particularly at this time. Because I think the question right now is not about party. It's really a question of whose side are you on. I know whose side I'm on. I'm not on the side of billionaires. I'm not on the side of the ultra wealthy who could give a crap about us. I'm on the side of people who are working hard, who are sometimes working 2-3 jobs, can barely put food on the table, and who are wondering how in the hell they're gonna hand something better off to their kids than what they have. You see, the American dream is not just about building a better life, it's maybe scraping together a couple nickels so you can take your kids on a vacation. Maybe you can afford to send your kids off to school. Hopefully you can retire with dignity. But at the end of the day, people who work hard should be able to achieve something. And we're at the first time in this generation, and Samuel and Jeremy, my friend back there, know this, right? Young people in particular. You know why young people feel hopeless? Because they're the first generation that is inheriting less and feeling like they're not going to be able to actually achieve that American dream, whether it's through jobs, through housing, through employment, through you can name it, right? This is the first generation that's starting to feel hopeless. We have a responsibility to this community, the Latino community, to do better by this community. And I'm only 6 weeks on the job, but I'm working my butt off because I believe in the promise of this country, and I believe in the promise of this party, despite all of its flaws. And I also know We lost ground with the Latino community. We lost ground with every community. Not just the Latino community, Black community, AAPI community, women, LGBTQ community. There wasn't one group we overperformed with in this last election cycle. And let me say one last thing. Last spring, there was research that showed the perceptions of the two political parties has changed. With the majority of Americans now believing that the Republican Party best represents the interest of the working class and the poor, and the Democratic Party being the party of the wealthy and the elites. That's not who we are, but that's how people feel. And unfortunately, people vote on perceptions and feelings.
That's right.
And the reality is that's something we have to also acknowledge. That people no longer feel like we're fighting for them. They no longer see the Democratic Party as their champion. So we have to get out of this mindset of taking any group for granted. Not just the Latino community, Black community, API community, Native community, all communities, frankly, we cannot take for granted. We've got to do a better job. And that's what I'm here to say. You can blame me in a year. I've only been on the ground 6 weeks, but I will tell you. Yes, I am proud to be here. I'm proud to continue the conversation. I want to learn more than anything, and I want to partner with you so that we don't make the same mistakes we continue to make year after year of just treating communities like a commodity, right? And the last thing I'll say is, what I said before about delivering for not speaking out of both sides of your mouth. My job is to get Democrats elected. But I get just as pissed off, excuse my language, I get just as mad as all of you in this room. When we work so hard to get Democrats elected and they get up there and they do nothing with the power they have.
That's right.
You see, the other side of this is not just that we're not present in community, not just that we're not organizing year round, but it's the fact that when we have the chance to actually deliver for people, you don't use the power. What good is power if you sit on it? What good is power, right, if you don't use it to make a difference? So year after year, people keep voting for us and they think something's gonna change in their lives. Well, guess what? When you never deliver, they're like, maybe I should do something different. Maybe I should vote another way. Or maybe I shouldn't vote at all because government doesn't really matter and it's not gonna change my life. That's what we're up against right now. So, and it's people in both parties. And frankly, I don't get mad at Republicans because I know who they are, right? I know who they are. I get more mad at Democrats because I get mad at them because we have an opportunity. And every time we have an opportunity, we have to take advantage of it. We have to use power. And I'll just share a story with you. Governor Walz is my governor in Minnesota. Some of you might know him now, right? Most of you probably didn't know him before last year, right? But let me tell you, when we won our trifecta back in 2022, he and I sat down with our legislative leaders and we said the same thing. Power is fleeting. We never know when we're gonna have it again, so let's push as hard as we can to make the biggest difference we can. And guess what, if we lose, we still win. And why do we win? Because we passed policy that's gonna make a generational impact in people's lives. That's what I believe. I have a short time here. I have a short time here. Cristobal knows that 4 years is my term as chair. But I am going to do everything I can to change the culture of this party so we get back to reminding folks why we do this work and how we do this work. Thank you so much.
So I want to start first by telling you there is 1.2 to 1.4 million Puerto Ricans in Florida and 5.9 million Puerto Ricans in the United States. First, I want to invite you to come to Puerto Rico as soon as possible.
I've been there multiple times.
As a chair, and have a conversation with people and show, because I tell this to everyone. So Rick Scott won the U.S. Senate because after Hurricane Maria, he was in Puerto Rico for five times.
Yeah.
So he was showing people that he was there for them. He did nothing after that, but people vote for that kind of thing. So we want you to come to Puerto Rico and as a chair, have a conversation, and also if it's possible to create a commission on the development of Puerto Rico right from the beginning. I
Yes.
think, President Biden did a very good, job in, when he was running, to put out a proposal of how he was planning to help Puerto Rico. And people read that, and people, we campaigned on that here in Florida. So people understood that the proposal about Puerto Rico, because one thing about us is that we go back and forth. We, it's not like people that have problem with the paper, they cannot go back for years and years and years. So I have traveled already like 3 times to Puerto Rico, and it's marching. So we go back and forth all the time, and we have family. Our family read the Nuevo Dia paper almost every day. So the paper from Puerto Rico, people read their paper here. So when we invest in the campaigns in Puerto Rico, we are talking to the people in Florida, we're talking to the people in Pennsylvania, we're talking to the people in Chicago, we're talking to people in Minnesota.
Yes.
That is a woman from Puerto Rico, I think she's gonna run for US Senate.
She is,
Yeah.
great friend of mine.
So,
Melissa Lopez.
so that kind of thing is important for us. Having a